about character. You're talking about becoming that person. How do you do that? Now the Ramchal, based on the Bright of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, he chose 9 steps that are the key character traits that if you work on these character traits, you have everything. It's like the king's son, the king's daughter was captured, and this brave warrior saved the king's daughter. So the king says, "Okay, what do you want? You could be the top minister in my government. I can give you a whole country to rule over. I can give you money, endless amount of money. I can also give you my daughter. You can marry my daughter." Yes, I want your daughter, because if I have your daughter, if I married your daughter, I have everything, because that's it. I'm family, and I'm part of. So, what the Ramchal did here in choosing this bright Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair that explains how to become a person with Ruach HaKodesh, but how to become a tzaddik, how to become a refined person, how to develop. He chose 9 character traits, that these are the main ones. If you have these, you have everything. You've conquered these steps. Minimal, if you conquered the first 3, you're called a tzaddik. We spoke about that in the past. I don't want to go back into it, but the introduction. So, the Ramchal is the master of organized, systematic program with goals and sub-goals and like a whole program that he built, a spiritual workout, where he takes you through the whole process of spiritual growth. And it's the same layout for every character. Every character has the same layout, 4 parts: klal, prat, kniya, and hefsed. And this is an important layout for if you want to conquer any character. This is what you have to do.
Where would you find the price of Pinchas ben Yair?
Where is it?
Yeah.
Here it's in the introduction. Where is that? Here in the introduction. Huma Shamar Pinchas ben Yair. Where is that? I don't know if this has the here. Okay. Whoops. At the end of the introduction, you have it in your book there? The end of the introduction. It's Gemara Avodah Zarah. The Gemara Avodah Zarah, 20th page, 2nd Amud Bet. Okay, and it's a good idea to learn the sources, because that's a good idea to see where it comes from, what it's about. But basically, the idea is that, as we said, it's a process. First, you need to understand the cloud, the overview. Then you need to understand what you have to do. You have to go into the details. Then you have to motivate yourself. And then you have to do upkeep and maintenance. Because even if you worked so hard to get something, it's not yours forever unless you take the... If you don't change the oil, the brakes, the car won't work. Will stop if you don't do the maintenance. So like everything in life, if you don't do upkeep and maintenance, you'll lose it. So we are now in motivation. Like we said, a person could know exactly what to do, but he won't do it. Why? Because I don't have motivation. You could say it word for word. I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But why don't you do it? Motivation is the most important thing. So we're starting. So let's start reading. This is a very long chapter. So first of all, the Ramchal tells us, so we're talking about how do I become a person who's careful, who pays attention, who's aware, who thinks before he does, who plans, who reviews himself, who is not just what we call in the rat race. Most people are in the rat race. They're just running. They don't think where they're going, the direction. They're just running, and they don't know why. Like I remember I was in New York. Everybody's running. I'm running. And I'm like, wait, I'm not in a rush. Why am I running? Slow down. Because everyone's running, so I'm running. You don't need to run because everybody's running. Create an island of sanity, an island of quiet. We have so much, we're bombarded with news and noise and things, non-stop interactions. Create an island of sanity in your life. That's what we talked about in the last week, was create cheshbon nefesh, make a time, a place, take it very seriously, where you stop the race, you stop the noise, and you just go inside and you review, where am I at? Where do I want to be? How did I act today? In the detailed and in general. Am I happy in my life? Am I happy in the direction? And maybe you can make a change. But now the question is, how do I basically, so Zeirut is basically being aware, paying attention to the details, investing effort and time in caring about the details of your service of Hashem, of your character. How do I motivate myself to do that? A lot of people, it's difficult to see, what I need to fix. A lot of people don't want to confront it. So how do I motivate myself to actually work on it? Right? We know Christianity, it's all about, it's a lost cause. You're lost. There's nothing you can do. You're a sinner. You'll keep making mistakes. You're not going to be able to see. So just forget about trying. And because of him, that whatever, JC, you'll be able to be redeemed. And you yourself are not able to do it. We say no, that's not true. There's a great story of the Chafetz Chaim. It tells a story of there's a woman selling apples. Someone comes over, knocks over her whole table of apples, and her whole booth, and everybody's walking by, just taking apples and walking off, and she's standing there like this. My apples, my apples. One smart guy walks by and says, "Why are you screaming? Get down and pick up what you can. Yes, they're taking. You're not going to have everything, but take what you can." Same thing in our reality of this world. It's true, we'll always make mistakes, and we're human, and we're not perfect. But you have to change your mindset. The apples are not all mine. This is the reality, and now I am going to take whatever I can take. But it's accepting the reality. So, first of all, as we said, how do I have motivation? One way is just learn Torah. הנה מה שהביא את האדם על דרך הכלל, הזהירות הוא לימוד התורה. You want to become a careful person that pays attention, that is control of your life, that thinks before he does, that reviews after you did, that changes, that grows, that doesn't just live life like through habit and through cruise control. You put your life on automatic and you go. Unfortunately, it's very sad. Some parents, they have a whole program worked out for the kids where they're going to learn, what they're going to do, what they're going to work, who they're going to marry. Everything is organized. But maybe it's not who they are. You have to find what is my path in life, not my parents' path. Who am I? Like we see Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, they were all very different. They each had a different path. They were not carbon copies. One's Chesed, one's Gvura, one's Tiferet, one's, very different personalities, and you have to find yourself. So, the first thing is learning Torah. Just learn Torah, you'll become a careful person. So, why do we need to learn this? The answer is very simple. Is because if you learn anything in the Torah, any Torah subject, slowly will seep into you to become a better person, to be aware of your reality, of your life, to make the right choices. But it will take forever. Like, you come to the doctor, he says, okay, I have two medications for you. One, do exercise, eat healthy, and you'll be okay. The other one here is antibiotics for the actual detail. So before the Ramchal goes into talking about the details and how do you motivate, because we want to specifically laser in, focus into the subject matter. Because if I'm studying the Torah, there's a story about someone who acted immorally, and here was someone who, he had anger and he went to deal with it. But wait, if I have anger, I got to focus in on, I got to learn this subject. it's gonna take me 50 years if I go through and learn a little story here and a little piece here. But if I have a whole entire subject on the detail, on the issue that I know I need to work on, it's gonna happen much faster. So the first thing the Ramchal says, Torah melivad zehut aderech haklal. That's a general guidance to anybody that wants to become a better person, wants to become careful, right? It's like if you have a terrorist, you could put your gun on automatic and just shoot a million bullets. Hopefully one will hit. And there's actually a story like that. There was a terrorist came to a checkpoint. A few soldiers started shooting automatic. One soldier took a deep breath, aimed, one bullet took him out. So it's not always just, the general. You can't always do things in general. You need to be focused on the details. So, and the question is, right, as it says in the Bright of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, Torah meviyah lidei zeirut. Torah will lead you to become a careful person. True. But why? So why isn't there a chapter of Torah? Why wasn't it right? The Braita says Torah leads to becoming zahir, becoming careful, paying attention, becoming aware. So why doesn't the book have a chapter? One of the answers is the first chapter was really about the essence of what is Torah, right? What is the reality of this world? That's the first chapter. Is really the purpose of life, and the complexity of us being in this world. That's what the Torah is. The Torah is here to help us deal with the reality that we're in. It doesn't hide the fact that we're in a world of challenges and difficulties and all kinds of things don't go exactly the way we'd like it to go. That's the first chapter, and that's really what the Torah is. So basically, now Omnam. Now we're going to go to the detail. Omnam. Al derech haprat hamevi lezeh. So we said the doctor tells you be healthy, do exercise, and sleep well, eat well. You'll be okay. Now let's talk about, I have a specific problem. Antibiotics. Al derech haprat. What are we going to do? Hu hitbonenut al chomer avoda asher chai b'adam ve'omek hadin aleh. You want to become a person that's careful, that's aware, that pays attention. There's two subjects that you need to understand. One is chomer avoda, and two is omek hadin. Okay, so you want to understand in detail. There's two concepts that you need to internalize in a deep way. What are the concepts? One is chomer avoda. Understand the importance and the seriousness and the responsibility that you have to serve God. That's called chomer avoda. Chomer means something very, very chamur, very serious, very important. Right? Chomer avoda. Like, I thought that I do a mitzvah, I pray or whatever. What's the bit? It's not such a big thing. It doesn't change the world. It doesn't shake up the heavens. It's just, but it does. It's like interesting. Like, we're talking about shaking up the heavens. Like if I have a stick that goes very, very far up, if I make a small movement here, so I made a small movement. What did I do? But as it goes up, the distance, the movement is huge. So we're saying the effect that our actions have in the world are vast. So chomer avoda and omek hadin. What is omek hadin? In other words, first of all, go back to chomer avoda. Chomer avoda means, imagine that you're a soldier and they give you a job, guard on this dog house. You're sitting there saying, this is the job they give me? To guard a doghouse? So you sit in the chair and you fall asleep. But if you would know that under that doghouse was a nuclear plant, maybe you wouldn't be as sleeping, as maybe you'd be a little bit more on guard. We understand this is like the most, so that's chomer ha'avodah, right? You have to work for it. You have don't make small of it. You're responsible. It's very serious. So that's chomer ha'avodah. 2, omek hadin. Omek hadin. What's the outcome? What is the outcome if you don't guard it, if you don't pay attention, if you just say, who cares? The omek hadin, the depth of the judgment of the outcome, how serious the outcome will be. It's not just, okay, I don't, I guard or I don't guard. Who cares? No. The whole world depends on you doing this action. Like the Rambam says, when you do a mitzvah, you have to think. The whole world is equal. And my action right now is the whole world is on a scale that's 50-50. My one act is going to lift it up. Someone to tilt the scale to positivity. Someone asked Rav Kook once, do you have any tricks on how to be happy? He said, if I would come to you and say you could do a small little act and benefit the whole entire world, to have an effect on the whole entire world, would you happily go do that? Of course, yeah. That's what the mitzvahs are. Just think of that before you do a mitzvah. That small act that you're going to do is going to turn over the world. It's going to change the world, uplift the world. So these are the 2 subjects that we need to understand. Chomer avodah, the importance of the work, and the very serious outcome if you don't. Okay? Elyon mizeh maasim aktuvim sakodesh, and we'll learn these 2 things. We're going to learn it in depth, in detail, and this is the motivation that we need to learn about these 2 subjects. Okay? Any questions till now? So we're going to talk about it, but there's a rule in education. The rule in education is everybody needs to be educated in a different way. This is the opposite of what we learn in the education that we know. How does the education system that we know work? They say an average kid is supposed to know this, has the ability to know basically this level of information at the age of 5, 6, 7, 8. So they build the school system based for the average kid. But what happens to the kid that's not average? It takes him 5 minutes to learn that information because he's advanced. And what happens to the kid that takes him 5 hours to learn because he goes slower? That's what we call in Hebrew mitat sdom. It says in Sdom they had like a bed. It's like today in fashion, you have to look a certain way. If you're not this height, they stretch you to be that height, or they cut your legs off so that you could be that height. Everyone has to be the same. The kids that are in crisis and that are on the street and getting into very difficult places are the kids that are on the higher level, the 10% that are way above, and the 10% that are way below. Because there's no place for them. Right? And even though the schools, they praise the person that is the 10%, I was the 10% below. But so they praise the 10% above, right? So this guy, he studied for 5 minutes and he got 100. The other one studied 5 hours and got 50. And that's how they value people. Because, for you it's easy. But no, you did not achieve your potential. You're not maximizing your abilities. Every person has to, that's the beautiful thing about God. It says, God measures exactly where you're standing, and your challenges are tailor-made for you. It's not too easy. It's not too hard. In every situation in your life, you have a choice to pass the test or fail the test. God tailor-made it for you. He knows exactly what you're able to handle, It's not too hard and it's not too easy, but it's there to help you grow. You have challenges, you move to the next level. You're growing, you're moving up. So God does that. In the school system, they don't do it yet. Hopefully, there's a system called Montessori that's very based on this concept of really each kid having his own program and his own learning program that's based on his ability, and he's always in a stage of challenging himself, not too much, not too little. That's the next level of education that doesn't exist yet. Okay? But the Ramchal was way ahead, and he's the master educator, and he says, if you want to motivate for these two subjects, I'm going to basically lay out 3 personality types. I'm not saying who's better, who's worse. It's just the reality. This is who you are. Try to find yourself within one of these 3, and I will show you, I will build for you a learning schedule, a learning program for each one of these personality types. I'm going to give you an example, and then go and build yourself your own program of learning based on which personality type you are. What are the personality types? And by this is very important to know. Rav Kook said that every person must write himself his own book of Chidushim. What does that mean? Doesn't mean you have to come up with new concepts that nobody ever thought of. Not everyone can think of new ideas. It just means because every person is so different. So I could say something here and you could be sitting there and say, wow, that was amazing. And you sit and you say, what's amazing about that? We all have different paths that reach us, different messages that excite us, that move us. And when something hits home and moves you, write it down and make yourself your own book that you review and you go over. I was in a class and he said that was exactly what I needed to hear. I have a list of classes I heard that wow, I have to listen to them over and over and over again. It could be online classes, it could be written classes, it could be text, things that you learn, but make your own, because that's a gift. Something that hits home is rare, and you have to take advantage of that, and then for the rest of your life keep learning those things and have that motivation. But that's in general. That's just to find who you are. But the Ramchal says, "Ve'ine ba'itbanenut hazeh," for this understanding, this awareness, ha'arot ba'adraga, there's 3 types of people. What are the 3 people? Shlemei hadat. 2, pchutim. And 3, hamon ha'am. So the Ramchal tells us that if you want to motivate yourself, find yourself in one of these 3 personality types. And he says, I'm going to give you an example of what kind of learning you need to learn if you are a Shlemei Hadat. We'll explain what that is. If you are Pchutim doesn't mean a low life, it means less. It just means Shlemei Hadat and people that are different. They're different than these. They're less than this, just in their understanding. Doesn't mean, we're not giving grades here and saying who's better or worse. We're just saying this is the reality. And Hamon Ha'am are the silent masses, what we call. The silent majority. Most people. And now he's going to give you an example. Now for Shlemei Hadat, what does Shlemei Hadat mean? Shlemei Hadat, תהיה להם הערה במה שיתברר להם כי רק השלמות הוא הדבר הראוי שיחמד מהם ולא זולת זה שאין רע מחיסרון השלמות הרחקה ממנו. So what are Shlemei Hadat? Shlemei Hadat, the Ramchal tells us, these are idealistic people. These are people, and it could be a kid, and it doesn't mean they act idealistically. They could not act at all idealistic. They don't even act like it. But Shlemei Hadat, in their knowledge, they're not Shlemei Maaseh. They're not people that are complete in their actions, but in their mind, in their dat, in their understanding, in their personality. Who they are is this type of person. They're idealist. Not only are they idealist, they're also perfectionist. They're looking for what excites them. Hara, what's their hara means awakeness. What ignites them? Only completion, only perfection, right? What makes something good or amazing? What's the difference between something that's good or amazing? The details. Right? When you do something, you do it okay, but when the details is what makes, and therefore, these people, they understand that they're idealists. They care about the world. They're not looking for their own personal gain. Even if though they're not acting like this, but that's who they are. There's people like this. I once wanted to ask someone, because I wanted to know who they are and how am I going to motivate them. So I said, what makes you feel bad if somebody stops doing mitzvahs? And they were like, what do you mean? The whole world depends on the mitzvahs that a person does. That's who that person is. And Rav Kook wrote a whole entire book for Shlemei Adat. And what is that? That is Orot HaTshuva. Orot HaTshuva is a book, because there wasn't a lot of books that were written for Shlemei Adat, because it was used to be very few individuals that were like this. The Rav Kook says that this whole generation, the majority of this generation are Shlemei Adat. They are these people that are idealistic. And therefore, for these people, then they need a book. And he wrote Orot HaTshuva. It's all about how you can connect to God, it's all about motivation to someone who is Shlemei Adat, idealist. That's his life. I don't want to be, depression for me is to not be close to God, to not feel the closest to God, to not experience being partnered with God in fixing the world. This is Shlemei Adat. And then the Ramchal will explain a little bit. Once they understand, these people, this concept of this is perfection. You want to have shlemut, you want to have oneness, you want to have wholeness, you want to have unity in your life, in the world, then you have to know you need two things. Once you understand that you want to be an idealist, that you are an idealist, then you understand that the tools that you need, the vehicle that you need to use to reach that place is your good actions, masima tovim ve'amidot tovot, and your good character. In that case, it's worth it for me to work on develop my character, and otherwise I'll just say, accept me the way I am. No, you want to be that idealist person. You want to have completion in your life. So the way to get there is your good actions and your good character. Okay? So keep going. Like the Rambam says. The Rambam writes in Halachot Tshuva how incredible Tshuva is. That a person could be, this is what the Rambam writes. Emesh haya ze muvdal melohei Yisrael. Yesterday, this guy was completely separated from the God of Israel. This is the Rambam writes. He prays and God does not answer. Tzoek ve'no nena. Oseh mitzvot, he does mitzvahs. And God says, I'm not interested in your mitzvahs. Right? And then, ve'ayom hu mudbak b'shchina. A person does tshuva. Today you are attached to the Shechina. Shene'emar ve'atem advekim b'Hashem Elochem chaim kulchem. Tzoek ve'oneh. He prays and God answers him. Immediately. He does the mitzvahs. Oseh mitzvot u'mekablin oto benachat v'simcha. V'lo od ela shemitavim lahem. God is like, has a desire to receive your mitzvot. You make this change. The mitzvot are not these lucky charms. They're not like this bribery to God. It's not a tax that you pay to God. Mitzvot are a relationship with God. And unless you fix the relationship by doing tshuva, what's the 4 parts of tshuva the Rambam says? 1, feeling bad. 2, confessing. You have to bring it out in words. No one has to hear it but God. But you have to say it. I did this and this and this. So you have to feel bad. You have to say the words. You have to stop doing it. Azivat achet and kabbalah. And you have to make a plan, a game plan that it won't happen again. You do that, a person immediately 180-degree change from being. But the Rambam's saying, yesterday you were separated from God, you were locked out, and today you are the closest person to God that could be just because of tshuva. And that is what it's all about. The sins, the negative things we do, they create a barrier, create a wall. Tshuva smashes that wall. And suddenly, you're right there in front of God, pouring your heart out to God. Okay? So, first thing I understood is my goal is to be connected to God. So you want motivation? If you're that type of person, that you have that idealist, that you have one goal, you want to be connected to God, that's wonderful. How do you do it? Work on your character. Midot tavot. Become a better person. Work on your character traits. Right? That's what it's all about. How do you stick 2 things together? They have to be similar. How do you become similar? Act like God. And right? And then you will be close to God. You'll be attached to God. So these people, of course, will not want to do averas. They won't want it, right? Like we said, a person that is it's like you're a photographer. You're a master photographer. Can you stand that there is a speck of dirt on your lens? You're going to take a picture. So you clean your lens. You make sure you don't just say, who cares? There's a little dirt on my lens. No. Or you love looking at birds. So you're looking at with your binoculars. You make sure everything is clean because this is, you want to see it. So I don't want to do actions that will put dirt, that will make it not clean. That's the way you motivate these people. If you discover you explain to them, you explain to yourself, if you are this type of person, this idea of the closest to God, V'kud B'Hashem, and the less actions you have, the less closeness you have. So that's what they want. There's type of people, that's who they are. They're people that nobody is testing you to see if you're doing it perfectly. So why are you doing it? There's people like that. There's people that they took on themselves, let's say, to do daf yomi. Comes to the time to do the siyum, they won't come to the siyum. I didn't finish all the pages. I'm not coming to the siyum. But you're not in a rush with anybody. You're not in a contest. You can do the siyum and then finish after. No. I have a goal. I have to do it perfection. It has to be done. It's between me and myself. Right? And that's what Rav Kook talks about, or at the Tshuva, he talks about it all the time, that this feeling far from God is like the worst suffering. The feel that like I'm numb, my actions are not going in the right direction. This is what bothers him. Al ken lo yivcharu ela leharbot bahem ulachmir b'kol tnaihem. This person is not going to do the mitzvahs. Like, oh, by the way, he's going to want to do everything perfectly. Right? I want that completion. That's what David HaMelech said. Ashrei Adam mefached tamid. What does that mean? Blessed is a person who is always afraid. Fear is a bad thing. What does it mean? B'divrei Torah. To be afraid is bad. It's not a positive thing. You're not allowed to be afraid of anybody. But to be afraid that I might not do the right thing, with the Torah, hahu b'divrei Torah aktiv, when it comes to Torah and mitzvahs, that I have this fear that I might miss out, I might not do it perfectly. That is wonderful. Okay, that's like there was a story once a psychologist told Rav Soloveitchik, I'm working all day with like people that have like, psychologically to try to help people to like stop being anxious and stop being, full of how do you say, charadot, fears and trembling. And you guys, right? You rabbis are all day bringing more things for them to be afraid of and trembling. So the Rav Soloveitchik said to him, you're wrong, because these fears, these trembling are, you're right. If it's nonsense, you shouldn't be afraid of things that are, really insignificant. But when it comes to serving God, you should really if you're this type of personality, you like everything to be perfect, you're idealistic, then you should understand it's a wonderful thing. It's great. It's like they say, it's like the perfect balance of, it's good to have a little bit of fear when it comes to Torah mitzvahs. If a person is mentally ill and it makes him have, person goes into like, so the rabbis say to people like this with mental illness, you're pater from mitzvahs. You don't have to do anything. Don't do any mitzvahs. People that are, oh no, maybe I didn't keep Shabbos good and God's going to punish me. Mental illness, so that's a different story. But a healthy person, it's good to have a little bit of fear, to be aware, to understand, like we said, chomer ha'avodah, the importance, the seriousness, the responsibility that sits on us, the obligation we have. That's great. והנה סוף זאת המדרגה, היא נקראת יראת חטא. And at the end of this, at the peak of this level, we're going to talk about at the end of the book, it's called Yirat Chet. What is Yirat Chet? It's the most meshubachot sheba madrigot. It's like the most refined, the most like wonderful of the levels that spiritual levels a person can reach, is called Yirat Chet. What does that mean? And it's very important to understand. Don't mix up between Yirat HaOnesh le Yirat HaChet. Yirat HaOnesh means I'm afraid of the punishment. It's not what we're talking about. Yirat HaChet is basically that I don't want to do something wrong because I know it's wrong, it's bad, it's going against what God wants. So I'm not afraid of punishment just because I know that that's not the right thing. This is a very, very high level Yirat Chet. I don't want to, right? I don't want to destroy the world that God gave me, and the spiritual world. Later on, he'll explain this, this idea. והיא מן המשובחות שמדרגות שהאדם ירא תמיד ודואג פן נמצא בדו שמץ חק שיקבעו מן השלמות אשר הוא חייב להשתדל עבורו. So this is it. I want perfection, and this is the way you do it. And the Ramchal explains. So he gives us a little idea. ועל זה אמרו, this is what the rabbis say. They say, על דרך המשל מלמד שכל אדם נכווה מחופתו של חברו. The rabbis taught us that every person gets burnt or sees pain by when he sees what his friend achieved. What does that mean? It says that when the tzaddikim, when the righteous people are in heaven, they look around and they're ashamed. They're so saddened. They have such a pain that when they see that their friend, you see someone who had similar potential as you, but he took it further, he took it all the way, and you didn't. That is a very big pain. In other words, you have this burning inside, this burning regret. I could have. Why didn't I? Again, it's not jealousy. It's a pain. It's a embarrassment in yourself. Like, why didn't I achieve that? And he says, I'm not talking about jealousy. Only foolish people, people that are stupid, who have no mind, are jealous. Why are you jealous that he has a car and you don't? he has his mission in his life. He needs a car. You don't. God planned everything. He talks about that in chapter 11, where he talks about jealousy. There's no jealousy is like it's the most foolish thing you could have. Just nobody can take what anyone else needs. God tailor made everything for you. Everything is programmed. If He has that, that's what He needs to do His work. You don't have that. You don't need that to do your work. So why do you need to be jealous? So what am I saying here? That every person is burnt by seeing what his friend achieved and he didn't? Right? What are we talking about? So he says, but אין זה מטעם הקנאה, אלא מפני ראותו עצמו חסר מן השלמות מדרגה שהיכול להשיגה כמו שהשיג חברו. Right? Like a person could say, I couldn't do it. You couldn't do it? Then how did he do it? He had similar challenges, similar difficulties as you did, and he did it, and you didn't. Like the Gemara says, there's no excuse. If you're poor, Hillel was poor and he learned. If you're rich, there was Antigonus. I forgot. And Chisma. I forgot who it was. There's no Antigonus. What? I don't remember who it was. It doesn't matter who you are. There were people that were in the same situations with no money and they learned Torah. With tons of money and they learned Torah. I don't have time because I have so much money. I have to deal with all my business. No. You don't have more money than him, and you're not busier than that rabbi, and he did it. You're not poorer than him. There's no excuse that you have. So, and that's really an important thing to be aware of. That you can't come and say, I didn't have a choice, I didn't have a chance. It's not true. Every person has the obligation and the ability. So that's basically the idea that we're talking about here is the Shlemei Adat, is that now build yourself a whole understanding of this type of motivation. We said one book is Arot HaTshuva. Rav Kook wrote a book for this type, and it's very short because the Ramchal understands that this Shlemei Adat people, they get it very fast. You don't have to talk about it for hours. That's Shlemei Adat. That's number one. Number two, we're moving to Pchutim. Pchutim, what motivates them? Right? So they basically, Pchutim, what's going to get them going? These people are not idealists, right? In other words, their goal in life is not Vikut B'Hashem. No. What do they want?
They want something back.
Fi inyan hakavod asher hem mitavim lo. They want respect. They want a spiritual reward. They want to feel respect in life. You want respect? No problem. Let me explain to you something. If you don't pay attention to the details, to the details of your life, you will not have respect in the next world. The fact that they're thinking about the next world is a big thing, right? Well, it's a high level, but this is who they are. They want respect. Their whole life is about respect. It doesn't have to be that they're in a contest with anybody, but they feel they always want to be. They want to get to the next level, the status. They want to have a certain status. It's between them and themselves. They want to be the status like they have in every, let's say for people that fly, they have gold, silver, platinum, diamond, right? There's a status and a person works towards it and he has that goal and he's going to it and he wants to have a nice big house and status is very important. There used to be in the license plates, they would write the year. 1997. Why did they change it? Because people would drive behind the car that's the newer model. They would go crazy. They would switch their cars right away, go buy the newer car. And it was going too fast. So they had to change that people don't know what year the car is. Because people go crazy. I have to have the newest. I have to be, right? So the Ramchal says, this idea of respect is a very powerful tool. and you have to talk to everybody their language. Some people, I can't understand it. But you should know there's battles, there's fights. I'm a fundraiser between people that want their name on the building, and they fight who's going to have the name on the building. People feel it's a very status thing. If you have a museum or you have a college or a university that has your name on the building, there's big fights that you will not change. And they do these, some big places, they have contracts. For 5 years, you'll have your name, and then they'll move you off, and then it will cost this much, and people fight. You can't even imagine. We can't understand it. Why do you need your name? The Ramchal has, again, in the end, we don't understand, but if you read the end of the chapter 11, where he goes into the details of each character, there he talks about respect. And wow, what people will do for respect. It says the Meraglim didn't want to go to Israel because there they were the leaders, and here they wouldn't be the leaders. Which is also an amazing thing I heard about Moshe Rabbeinu. That Moshe Rabbeinu, Vayitchanan Hashem, is begging to God. Why? I said no. I know you said no. But since you said no, you gave the leadership to Yoshua. Now I'm a simple person. Let me come into Israel like everybody else. Not like a leader. I'm just Moshe. Think about how humble he was.
I'm finishing, so I'm giving it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry to trouble you to come back here.
No, it's not a trouble. Thank you.
So think about this greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu. He was able to say to Hashem, let me come in like I am a simple, how do you say, like simple person like everybody else. Now that I'm not the leader, I want to go in as like a nobody. Just nobody has to know who I was, what I did, anything. Just let me go in like everybody. Yeah.
In America, all the people buy a new car and say, if I don't have a car, I'm nothing. This is a kind of respect that society puts a human
But here we're
being
saying
in.
not society. This is a person himself. Like there's a person who, I don't want to have a dirty shirt, not because I care what people see, how it looks. Because a person like me doesn't wear a dirty shirt. My status is that I don't wear a dirty shirt. Or I have to have a car because I need to be a nice car. So Ramchal says, so let me explain to you. And also, like it says, Yeravam ben Navat, he was one of the kings that was an evil king. And Hashem said, do tshuva, and me and you and King David will walk in the Garden of Eden. He said, who's going to be Barosh? Who's going to be the first one? Who's going to be at the head, the top? Tapuchin Kadishin. Thank you. Who's going to be at the top? It's going to be David HaMelech. I don't want it. If I'm not in the front, if I'm not in the top, so the Ramchal says, oh, okay. So you have to motivate. And then the Ramchal explains here to that person who is looking for respect. He says, he has a whole discussion here in the book. Oh, so you say, I don't need respect. I don't need a big house. In the next world, I'm happy to have a tent. I don't need there's something called glamping. It's like not a hotel. It's like camping, in a nice, a tent is good for me. Who are you fooling, Ramchal says. You work so hard to have the nice house, the fancy car. You work so hard. And when you see someone that, a simple guy, a friend of yours in school, you thought he was a nobody, he went and became a huge developer, and now he has your heart you cringes. I can't believe this guy has that and I don't, and he was had no, right? Don't fool us, don't fool yourself. And this is how the Ramchal speaks to you, your language. And so we're done. 2 of them, or 2 out of 3. Next week we'll continue the Hamon Ha'am. The Hamon Ha'am, so basically these 2 that we spoke about, the focus is the importance of the work. The Shlemei Adat, importance of the work, like we said, in closest to God, in the idealism. And Chomer Avodah, the Prutim, is you want to have status, you want to move up, you want to build yourself, a big castle for the next world. Not physical, of course, spiritual, respect. You want to be sitting in the front rows. Then take every detail serious and pay attention to the details. The Hamon Ha'am, we're going to talk about next week, These are the people, what motivates them is Omek Hadin. You want to have success in life? You want to be able to, have all these good things? If you don't pay attention to the details, if you don't understand, the same way there's the rules of nature. The rules of nature. You jump off a building, you fall. There's no such thing to say, wait, I regret it. I didn't mean to jump. Too bad. Boom. In the same way, the laws that were created in the system of law in the world, they created the same way. You steal, you go to jail. The laws are there's no place for how do you say, compromise, or like give me some time, or give me patience. So also the spiritual world works the same way. So that's what the masses need to understand. You want to have success, you want to do well, you want to grow, you have to pay attention to the details. But I'll explain to you by Omek Hadin, by the severity of the outcome of the actions, and the reality that when you act in a spiritual way, when you go over one of the mitzvahs, you are putting your hand in the fire. You're going to be burnt. But I don't feel it. I don't see it. Okay, that's what we'll explain. We have to explain that. But it works the same way. The laws of nature apply also to the spiritual world. But there's tshuva, and we'll explain where that works. But tshuva is not God saying, no problem, I'll let it go. No. Tshuva is God gives you time, God gives you love, God gives you, I believe in you. But it's not saying, I don't care about it. So that's next week with God's help. Well, it's a long chapter because the people that are Shlemei Adat and the Pchutim, they'll go and they'll find the right books to learn to motivate themselves. The Pchutim are not going to find the books. So it's over here. Here it is. We'll go through it in length together so that you understand what it's about. And so next week we'll keep going